I've just disembarked a cruise where I travelled 1,458 miles across Japan. I saw lots of things I expected, like castles, temples, and amazing toilets, but I also saw and did things I never could have predicted. From fizzy milk to orange sandwiches, hot sauce vending machines to hats for cats, every single minute of this cruise was unbelievable and has to be seen to be believed. I didn't know if I was being too optimistic with my to-do list for this cruise, and I hope that doing a mix of cruise line excursions and trips by myself would be the right thing to do. As I had travelled over 5,000 miles to take this cruise, I really didn't want anything to go wrong. I started my journey in Tokyo, where I stayed for a couple of nights to try and get into the time zone. Tokyo is 9 hours ahead of London, so I flew overnight, basically skipped forward a day and arrived in the evening again. I didn't see the sun rise for 2 days, but that did not matter. I was so excited. Our first port was Shimizu, and here I'd booked an excursion called Scenic Drive with Mount Fuji views. The views weren't guaranteed, of course, and I'd heard a lot about people who travelled across the world to see this mountain and just ended up seeing fog or clouds. So I wasn't holding my breath, but we were incredibly lucky with the weather. We had the most beautiful views. Our excursion took us to the perfect viewpoint at what turned out to be the perfect time, because a couple of hours later the clouds did come over. Cruise line excursions do tend to start pretty early in the morning, which meant that I was up and out. If I was on my own schedule, I probably would have missed it completely and got there when you couldn't see it. It's interesting to note that there isn't any snow on the top, and this was the first time in 130 years that this late there still wasn't any snow. Just like anywhere in Japan, there were plenty of vending machines here. I counted 9 just at the viewpoint, all selling different drinks. I would find what I think is fizzy milk in a vending machine later, but at this point I was just sticking to water and Coke Zero. There's a vending machine for every 31 people in Japan, so if you're ever thirsty at any time, all you have to do is spin around and you will see a vending machine somewhere, there's no doubt. Another thing that is everywhere in Japan and is absolutely amazing are public toilets that are free to use. We had a lot of toilet stops on our excursions and they were always so clean. The toilets in Japan do magical things. They will wash and dry absolutely everything. They will play you music, and many of them even have heated seats. Japan really is living in the future when it comes to toilets. Or what I hope will be the future anyway, because I really want one of these. Our excursion took us next to see a pine tree forest and we went to the beach. It was here that I decided to buy my fortune. It was like a fortune cookie, but it was just a piece of paper and it was based on my birthday. Inside there were 2 pages. The first one just basically gave me some compliments, which was lovely, and the second gave me some very specific fortunes. I used Google Translate to read it, of course, because sadly I cannot read Japanese. Not yet anyway, never say never. Not reading or speaking Japanese was not a problem at all. Every place we went to, the people there spoke English, and all of the machines just had a big English button. Our tour guide on this excursion did help us to sing a song in Japanese by writing down what the English letters would be. We all gave it a go on the bus and we just had to trust her as to what we were singing. The next day in Nagoya we visited our first temple, Osukanon Temple. It was originally built in 1333 and it moved to this site in 1612. I should say it was moved, it did not move itself. It was very impressive, and after looking at this we were given some free time in the town. We headed first to a shop to pick up some medicine because a cheeky little mosquito had been munching on my leg, and then we found a shop with lots and lots of toy machines. I saw this crying banana and I decided that I needed it. I spent an embarrassing amount of money trying to get it, and I'm sad to say that I never managed it. It's funny how I really have no interest in gambling in a casino or anything like that, but if you make the prize a crying banana, I'm in. I bought my cat Hudson a hat because I'm sure that that's what he would want. I did try it when I got home and it's safe to say that he was not grateful for his gift. The next place we went to, we actually had to take off our shoes and put them in a little locker. We had the keys around our wrists, and it reminds me of when I've gone swimming in the past and they give you this kind of waterproof wristband. We don't do many things in the UK with our shoes off, so that was a fun novelty. The temple was very interesting, and afterwards I bought some snacks from the gift shop. They were basically biscuits biscuits with the head of a lion and the body of a fish. In Osaka, we actually walked to the top of the castle. Because we were on a cruise line excursion, we were in a group, so we were able to go right to the front of the line, and that was good because it was very busy. When we went into the castle, there was a man directing people either left or right. He said the left was for the elevator and the right was for exercise. We picked exercise and we walked up the 8 flights of stairs to the top. The castle has been destroyed 4 times, so although this was originally built in 1583, most of what you see now comes from 1931. Driving to our next stop, I spent most of the time staring at the cars. I've never seen cars like this anywhere else in the world, and even their vans are like this. They do have bigger regular cars too, but I just think these are the coolest. They must be great for city driving, and I imagine easy to park. The temple that we went to next is called this. I cannot pronounce this, and I also can't find any examples of anyone saying this, so please just read that in your head if you can. It was here that I used Google Translate to instantly translate the signs. This was so helpful if we wanted to check something quickly, like if we wanted to check what a message on a bench said. I didn't want to sit down and find out that all along that message meant wet paint, but when I scanned it, I would see it said something like please don't stay longer than an hour, and then I would know for sure. You can download the language on Google Translate for offline use too if you don't have internet when you're in Japan. We visited a new port most days of this cruise, and we only had 1 day at sea. We actually spent 2 days in Osaka, which was fantastic. As we'd taken an excursion on the first day, we decided to just do our own thing on day 2. Having an overnight in port is great, and I wish that more cruises did them. Japan's train system is very easy and efficient. As soon as we left the cruise ship, there were signs to the metro, and from here we just bought our tickets on the machines. Cards are accepted in Japan, but we really only use them in the bigger stores, and for things like buying drinks for the vending machine or buying train tickets, we would use cash. It was definitely easier that way. When we got off the train, we found a 7-Eleven. There are 7-Elevens everywhere in Japan, and they are incredible. I could spend hours in here just looking at the magazines or looking at the sandwiches. I found one orange and whipped cream sandwich at one point. Apparently it's very good, but I didn't try it this time. The staff in the shops were always so friendly and so welcoming of tourists. We had lots of ports where we had performances as we sailed away, which was always so sweet. Right next to the cruise terminal in Osaka is a massive Ferris wheel. It's only £4 and we didn't have to wait at all. The main thing that I wanted to see, of course, was the ship, my Norwegian Spirit. It is so strange to see a ship from above like this, but it was so worth it. I could also see all the school kids walking around with their matching hats on, which is so cute. I love this drawing that was on the safety sign. Even the signs are fun in Japan. The next place that we visited definitely couldn't be described as fun, but it was well worth it. We went to Hiroshima, so we of course went to the Peace Park Memorial. It was here that we learnt about what happened in 1945 when an atomic bomb dropped on the city. We learnt about how many deaths and injuries there were and how Hiroshima has rebuilt since. The Peace Park memorials are all about a peaceful future, and it's something that I'm glad I experienced. This building has been left as a reminder, as it was the only thing left standing here. The latest figures suggest that 78,000 people died here. For the next couple of days, we decided not to do cruise line excursions and instead to wander around the ports. I had a look at the maps pre-cruise, and it looked as though there were interesting things that we could walk to. Japan's very walkable. It didn't take me even 5 minutes to walk past the hot sauce vending machine in Naha. I have no idea who needs hot sauce this regularly, but if there was one of these for ketchup, I would be all for having that on my street. That would be fantastic. We found a shopping centre, and in there I found loads and loads of these toy machines. These are everywhere, and some of them were really funny, like this guy or this toilet. I bought a Shiba Inu with his head in a strawberry because why not? He's just so cute. We wandered back along the beach, and it was really starting to get a bit toasty. I expected it to be chilly or perhaps raining, given that we cruised in November, but we had glorious sunshine pretty much every single day. Do keep in mind though that my warm isn't everybody's. The locals would be wearing hats, even earmuffs, and I'm there just in a t-shirt, absolutely loving it. It was the same when we visited a shrine in Naze and wandered through the residential streets. It was here that I found these incredible dragon taps, and I would love to have those in my house. It was great to get a bit further away from the touristy, crowded areas, because if you are going to be visiting castles and temples, you do of course find big groups of people. When we visited the Atomic Bomb Museum in Nagasaki, it was really quite busy. There were lots of school trips, cruise line excursions, and other people visiting because it is a must visit. We saw some items that were kilometers away that had been damaged by the blast, including this clock that had frozen at the time that it went off, 11:02. Hearing the stories of entire families that were wiped out really was upsetting, but I think it is important to remember things like this. The modern atomic weapons section was probably the scariest of them all. After visiting, we went to the Peace Park and we saw Ground Zero where the bomb went off. Our guide was fantastic and she would chat to us when we were on the bus or when we were wandering around. She told us about how a girl was hiding in this cave here when the bomb went off. She survived, but she came out and she found the entire city incinerated. It is hard to comprehend something like that. While wandering around the park, we again had some free time and we found a vending machine that had in it what I can only guess is some sort of fizzy milk. It says a carbonated dairy beverage. Let me know if you'd like to try that. Our next port of Jeju was all about the nature. It is an island owned by South Korea and we boarded the most extravagantly designed bus. It was almost decorated like a cake. We were taken to the Natural History Museum and we saw skeletons, models of boats that I definitely wouldn't want to be on, and mannequins demonstrating life throughout the ages. The downside for me about being on a group trip is that you are, of course, on everybody else's schedule. I am somebody who rushes through a museum at 100 miles an hour and then I go home and I watch a documentary or I listen to an audiobook. I definitely don't read everything in a museum. That wasn't a problem here though, because the museum was set in some lovely gardens, so we wandered around waiting for the back on the bus time. I'm happy to say that we never lost or left anybody behind on any of our cruise excursions, and that has happened to me in the past. You do need to get back on time. Next up, we went to visit a place called Dragon Rock, and here I bought a whale with a tangerine on her head and some mango sweets, which was so good. The places that we visited were fantastic, but only a tiny part of the cruise experience. To find out what we got up to the rest of the time, including the ship that I sailed on, all of the entertainment, all of the food, check out this video next.